See, it's crazy work to talk about responsibility. It really, really is. See, you could be a doctor of psychiatry, a doctor of psychology, you could be a therapist, whatever the case may be. But if in fact it is true, which I know it is to be true, that most issues that a person has, see, this is why I love being an Adlerian therapeutic educator, Adlerian, after Alfred Adler. If it in fact it is true that most mistakes came from being misguided from when you were young, then the psychologist or psychiatrist, mainly the psychologist or the therapist, who does not have immense knowledge and mastery of early childhood education and pedagogy and methods of instruction, things like that, they are missing the mark. Why? Because I find myself having trouble with I am responsible statements. It is not enough to just say, I am responsible for my life. I am responsible for how I treat others. I am responsible for how I treat my wife. I am responsible for how I treat my children. I am responsible for how I treat my husband. I am responsible for how I treat others. I am responsible for how I treat myself. I am responsible for how I treat society. I am responsible for how I operate this. You see what I'm saying? Those are assumed responsibility statements. Google it. What is assumed responsibility? It's the responsibility that you have when you are given something and you take it, or you take on something because you ask for it, you take it, you accept it. It's not about the value judgment of like or dislike, whatever the case may be. You take on this thing, right? But applied responsibility is having skills, right? Being skilled in being skilled in doing the thing you took on. And when we don't talk about applied responsibility skills, what's the root word of responsibility? Respond. When the need arises, can you respond to that need and fix that thing for yourself, for your children, for your husband, for society, for your car, for your house, for the bills, for your life? Can you respond? You see what I'm saying? And it is really troubling when we try to hold a person accountable for what they have a responsibility for when they can't count and respond. You see what I'm saying? Count is a skill. Respond is a skill. There's context. What am I counting? What am I responding to? Do I know how to do this? How much practice have I had? Under what conditions have I practiced? What is the condition of this thing that I failed to respond to? Have I been trained in that thing? You see what I'm saying? And so you get them to say a bunch of I am responsible statements, but then you don't gauge, one, their pedagogy with learning, their methodology of how they learn. When you don't look at their pedagogy with learning, and how they have, what was the learning environment, what was the Yuri Bronfenbrenner's, the micro system wherein they learn. What was the exosystem? What was the mesosystem? What was the macro system? The chrono system. How are they with the zone of proximal development? I can't do this. I can do this with others. I can do it by myself. And then the fourth level that Lev Vygotsky doesn't talk about, which is important, I can teach others. You see what I'm saying? I can teach others. See, you can know how to do a thing, but not know how to teach that thing, and then you're not qualified to be responsible in teaching others how to do that thing. So there's more context to this responsibility argument than people really take into consideration. And so when you use those words accountable and responsible, what is the utility of using those words? The utilitarianism, it's use. The use to self, the use to society, the use to your community. What is the utility of using accountable and responsible? Are you using these words to make a person feel a type of way to build yourself up? Because then you might be putting shame on them for wrong or foolish behavior when they could be making mistakes because of being misguided, and now they are in misfortune. Plato said this, and I'm going to land with this. Plato said, rather be unborn than untaught. For ignorance is the root of misfortune. What does ignorance mean? You generally just don't know. And who's responsible for teaching us as boys? Our moms, our dads, the people in our microsystem. Yuri Bronfenbrenner, the microsystem, the zone of proximal development. Who's responsible for that? And I hear psychologists and therapists say, you shouldn't blame your parents. I wholeheartedly reject that notion. You absolutely should hold them accountable while giving them grace. While giving them grace. Because 9 times out of 10, they were miseducated. You see what I'm saying? So I give them grace. They don't have to apply for it. I give them grace because I know they didn't know. But we are not going to tell them, hey, you had a responsibility to teach me, and you didn't seek out how to do that better. Were those resources available? Yes, those resources were available, but you did not seek those resources out. What were the reasons you didn't seek those resources out? Okay, because through your childhood and your teenage years, learning has been made to hurt. So you avoided responsibility because the trauma you knew was better than the healing you didn't know. The pain you received made you be afraid of learning, and so you didn't choose to learn because of your experience with learning. Does that make sense? You see what I'm saying? So I can give you grace. No forgiveness, because I don't forgive the behavior, but I can give you grace, which is better than forgiveness, because I know you didn't know. So you could not have done this because you did not know how to do this. And then I can look at my family tree and see that my family tree is a pattern of pathologically, willfully ignorant people. And so that would make me separate from my family and go learn better, because I know I can't go to them because look at the outcomes. You see what I'm saying? So that's just what I got to add on this responsible. Let me get up out of here so I can go ahead and get dressed or whatnot. I just got through doing a 5K. Back at it, and I feel good. I took 5 days off. One, my body needed it. 2, I feel awkward because I didn't do it. And 3, I didn't do nothing except, eat quasi-healthy. But it's good to just be back at it. When your body's in a pattern of doing stuff, I feel good after this 5K. So, I hope this helps. 1, stop beating up on yourself for what you don't know. Give yourself grace for what you don't know. Put that, I don't want to say blame, but I would say hold your parents accountable for the assumed responsibility that they had to do better and to know better and to put you around people who knew better, but give them grace on the applied responsibility because they could not do better. You can't do what you don't know. You see what I'm saying? So I give you grace on the applied responsibility. I hold you accountable on the assumed responsibility, because when you created me and you brought me into the world, you had an assumed responsibility to know. So I'm going to hold you accountable for that. You had a responsibility, but I give you grace because you couldn't respond. You see what I'm saying? I think that's just way better. Oh my God, it's just way better. And it is so free. I love my mom so dearly, because I give her grace on the applied responsibility. She couldn't apply it. She didn't know it. And because of her not being shown how to cultivate relationships, she couldn't put me around others better than my father, better than her, so that I could know better. But she did keep me curious. She at least didn't destroy my curiosity. All right, y'all. I'm out.